We are live. Big Tree in the building. What's up?
What's
I got
going
your
on,
I
Calix?
got your interest music.
I miss Cali, bro.
California knows how to party. Let's cut it there. My boy out of California. You miss California?
I do, man. I miss the weather. I mean, I don't miss right now California at the moment, but I miss the weather definitely.
Yeah.
But the weather
I
and
bet
family. Other than that, I'm cool. I'm cool in Vegas.
Vegas, you see a lot of fights out there once they get back and popping.
Yeah, definitely. I think the last fight I was at was I forget was it Fury and Wilder or Pacquiao and Thurman. I don't know which one was the last one, but
That
those
was
were the
Fury Wilder.
Yeah, that was the last one I went to. Then that was fun. That was a spectacle in itself.
Yeah,
You
it
know,
was. Yeah,
it
that was the
was it
first one or
reminded
the
me
second one?
the second one. The
Yeah,
second
that was
one
a spectacle then.
that reminded me a lot when we actually all first met out here for the Mayweather fights, and it was a Mayweather Cotto, I think.
Mayweather Cotto.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was fun, good times. So it kind of a lot of memories resembled when I was down there, except it was like seeing more like a Hatton fight, because I was
Yeah.
in line getting like beer and stuff, and they were going crazy, man. It was nuts.
I
It was
can't wait to
nuts.
get back out there for a fight. So I hope they loosen things up. The first big fight in Vegas, I'm there.
Yeah,
I am there.
it's coming up, man. They're already opening up 50% pretty soon, so should be popping soon.
Good, good. So we're on Calcast 9. We're going to talk about some things. We're both Pacquiao guys. So I want to talk about Pacquiao because Pacquiao is saying he's back training again. And they're going to try to get him a fight.
Yep.
So I want to talk about who we want him to fight, who we think he's going to fight. Broner's return too. I don't know if you saw AB. AB is back.
I just saw that they changed the weight for the fight the day before. What the
They changed.
that's
Not only did they change the weight, they changed the whole weight class
yeah.
2 days before the fight. That's incredible.
I don't know. I can't remember a time seeing something like that. Like this is insane.
They
The
changed
guy,
him from a junior welterweight to a welterweight 2 days before the fight.
the guy's a fat boy at heart, anyways. He's a
Yeah, you
party
seen his
animal.
dad. He's big boned. He's
Yeah,
big boned.
very dense.
And I want to get your quick pick on at the end of the show on Berchelt versus Valdez because I love that fight coming up tonight, tomorrow night on ESPN. But let's talk about Pacquiao, the return. And he announced about a week or two ago that he is returning. He's back training, and he's going to have a big announcement coming soon. So, first of all, what do you make of Pacquiao's career at this point? Because let's think back at 2013. We're going to talk about two guys tonight, Pacquiao and Broner. Broner at that point was seen as everybody was trying to pump him as a pound for pound guy in the next Mayweather. And we'll talk about Broner in a minute. But Pacquiao at that point, what was it, 2012, 2013, he was knocked out by Marquez. So would you think that 7-8 years later, he would still be going? And not only that, he's probably a top 3 welterweight coming off of a win against Keith Thurman. Would you have thought that years ago?
No, not after that. I mean, especially with everything that he had going on with the politics and everything, I've thought eventually he would stop, and just stick fully on full time Philippine politics. The senator. I think at the end of the year he's trying to run for president of the Philippines, from what I was reading. I didn't expect that though. Not coming off of that kind of a knockout loss. We all can't forget that face plant on the ground, and I just remember, was it like Mitt Romney sitting in the front row with his hands out, and it's shock. But no, I didn't expect it. I mean, and he's still a very capable fighter. He's not the same Manny. Definitely wasn't even then. He was still not he didn't have that killer instinct. He wasn't party animal Manny. That's I like to call when he was shooting darts and drinking and knocking out fools
Was
left
that the
and right.
best Manny? Was that the
That had
best
to
Manny
be.
right there?
that he proved that you could party and fight for the longest time. Like,
So he's like kind of like Tiger Woods, where when Tiger Woods was just running through women, he was the best Tiger Woods.
yeah, and then he had to stop, and he became a shell. He got hurt. He didn't have his medicine anymore, So,
But that was one of the most shocking losses I've ever. I mean, I put that up with Tarver beating Roy Jones in the rematch.
oh, remember
It was just shock. I remember just watching the fight and thinking, "Oh, this fight is going exactly how I thought it would, just back and forth, just like the first three fights went." And then there's going to go be another 12 round fight, and then there's going to be another close disputable decision, and then all of a sudden, right before the bell rings, holy crap! Holy crap!
that was nuts. That was nuts.
And
I didn't expect it at all. Not at all. I mean, we all saw that Marquez came in swole in that fight. And he was going for that. But you can be as big as you want. Doesn't mean you're going to land that shot. And he was getting his ass whooped. Like, he was cut up. He was bleeding. Was he bleeding from both eyes, or he was bleeding bad though?
Pacquiao was touching him up too, and that's the thing. Pacquiao was having a good round. He was having a good round.
Marquez was touched up, is what I'm saying. Like, he didn't look like it looked like it was going to be a short night for Marquez that night. I remember watching it.
I remember clearly thinking that, like, oh, he just got too swole and he can't move as well. And then all of a sudden, no, he played that perfect. He took those power pellets and he landed that big shot.
The power pellets, man, that's funny.
He was drinking his own urine too. It worked.
Yeah, drinking his own urine like it was his beer. He was yeasting up. He was good. He was ready.
But no, I after watching that, I would have never thought. Fast forward to year 2021, and Pacquiao is announcing a fight, and it's going to be a big announcement that we all care about, and he's arguably the third best welterweight in the world, because I would put Crawford first, Errol Spence second, I would put Pacquiao right behind him. So he's still a top three, even with the young lions in that division. He's a top three guy.
Yeah, and that's what's scary, though. No matter who he picks, pretty much, they're all young lions, like you said. That's a perfect way to describe them, who are hungry and want to tear him up, to make a name for themselves, And I mean, there's a few out there that I know that are mentioned. I think he has a really solid chance, but there's definitely two that I would say he has no shot in hell, And I hate to see him pick those.
Who do you want to see him fight?
All right, for me personally, just because I'm not a big fan of the kid, and I might get a lot of hate for this, I don't like Ryan Garcia really. I would have loved to see him tear. I think he could tear Ryan up. I don't know. Maybe it's my hate towards Ryan, but
why do you hate Ryan? Is it the Instagram personality?
Yeah, too much of a pretty boy.
He showed me something in that last fight, though. He came
definitely
off the canvas.
I'll say that I was surprised by that, and I'll give him credit and respect about that. He gained some respect from me, but I still don't. He's not getting up from a Spence or a Crawford punch like that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, and will he get up from a Manny punch if Manny lands something like that? And Manny will I think Manny could finish him if he wouldn't let him back in the fight.
I tend to think, first of all, I want to see him fight Terrence Crawford. That's the fight I want to see. From what I'm hearing, it's going to take big money, and I just don't see that happening. I heard that he wanted $40 million for the fight, and that they would have to do it in Macau or Abu Dhabi or wherever they're going to do it overseas. It wouldn't be here. I just don't see it happen, particularly because I heard that Sean Porter turned down $2 million to fight Terrence Crawford. I heard that rumor. And if that's true, then you can tell they're not working on that Terrence Crawford versus Pacquiao fight if they're working on that. I agree with G Funky here. He says Pacquiao beats Ryan Garcia. I agree with that. With it. I think that Pacquiao would catch him with something, and Garcia being the naturally smaller guy, especially at this point in his career, I think Pacquiao would beat him.
Yeah, that and just the ring experience at the end of the day. I don't think Ryan has that mental fortitude to go against a veteran like Manny, where Manny still, even at Manny's twilight of his career, still, in my opinion, is better than Ryan Garcia, and still is going to be packing power. The only
And
thing
I
that
don't.
worries me about it is the long layoff, obviously, against a fast fighter like Garcia.
That's the
He
thing
missed the
that
whole
worries me.
COVID era. Yeah,
That worries me. Even though he's coming off the win against Keith Thurman, it's a year and a half layoff. So that tends to make me think that they're going to take a lighter touch on this one. Maybe and when I say a lighter touch, still a good fighter like a Danny Garcia or a Mikey Garcia, somebody
yeah,
like that at 147 instead of a instead of a Errol Spence Jr. or a Terrence Crawford. But then on the other hand, he's 42 years old, so you can only wait so long before you take that serious fight. Like I would take if you're gonna take a fight like that, I would take it at 42 instead of 43.
yeah. I
Right?
mean, but and then right, and you got to think though, his plan on running for president, if that's the case, he only has till the end of the year. He's not going to fight and run for president.
Is he really
So,
gonna do
I
that?
mean, that's what they're saying. There's a lot of talks. I mean, I got a lot of Filipino friends back home, and uh, that's what I'm hearing. Like, you see them in their papers, they're talking about it. So, if that's true, if he does, then this can very much be his last year. Maybe he fits into two fights that they hope for, but they always hope for that, and that never works out anymore. So we'll
I hope
see.
the Terrence Crawford fight happens,
See,
but how how I feel like this is gonna happen is I think it's the lighter touch first and then the bigger fight second. But what I really hope does not happen is the crossover fight. I don't know about you, how you feel about this, but I'm so tired of the crossover fights. I want to see guys stay in their own sport. I want to see UFC fighters fight UFC fighters. I want to see. I have no problem with the retirement tour fights, like they're talking about Tyson versus Holyfield 3. No issue with that, especially for these older fighters who were maybe shorted in their career. For these
mhm.
guys to be older and get that money, good for them. I'm all for that. I'm all for the entertainment fighters. You have these YouTube guys fighting celebrities like Nate Robinson got knocked out. I have no issue with any of that. But I don't want to see like prime fighters like Pacquiao versus Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor is losing fights in his own sport. So why do people want to watch him box?
It, the only way or only reason that I would want to watch that is because I would love to see Manny knock Connor out, make him look silly. I mean, and then the entertainment purpose or value to it. But I pretty much agree with you. I don't see the point in it. I don't see the point in Connor doing it when, like you just said, Connor's getting touched up in his own sport. So well, Floyd toyed with Connor.
Yeah,
That fight
he
wasn't
carried.
close. Yeah, he
He
carried the
carried.
fight. Manny is not doing that.
No.
And I mean, it would be fun to see him knock out Connor, but do I want to watch it? Really? No. Is that going to get me excited? No. So
Yeah, and not only that, like the real top fighters, like Canelo. I heard they threw the zone like flirted with Canelo doing some crossover fights, and Canelo just said no. And I like that. I want
right,
Canelo going for legacy, but Canelo against one of these guys, he would just destroy one of these guys. To me, it doesn't prove anything. You're not going to
right,
find out who's better, which is better, boxing or mixed martial arts. You're not going to figure that out from
right,
this. And why can't we like both? But I just want to see guys perfect their own craft.
right. Isn't it? And isn't that the whole point? You're in mixed martial arts to be the best mixed martial artist. You're in boxing because you want to be the greatest boxer. You're trying to perfect that one craft. I mean, in mixed martial arts, obviously there's different art forms to try to perfect. But that's why some guys are wrestlers or Brazilian jiu-jitsu or strikers.
Mhm.
Usually they perfect that one and try to learn the others. But nowadays they just want this a money grab, man. That's what it is.
That's what it is, a money grab. And if the guys took it seriously and said, "Hey, I want to learn this sport and I want to do good in it. It's a long-term deal." Like that was Holly Holm, right? That went to the
Yeah,
UFC and had success there. So somebody like that, if they want to go and try to actually learn that sport and be successful long term and be full time in that sport. But with boxing and MMA, it's not something you can do part time in both, in my opinion. It's not like Bo Jackson playing football and baseball,
Right.
or Deion Sanders playing football and baseball. That's difficult in itself, and it takes a freak athlete to do that. But this is a whole different ballgame. You're talking about life and death here.
Yeah, it's an art form. It's like you said, life or death. Like definitely, like these guys getting hurt like
One
that.
punch, one
Yeah,
punch.
that's why I'm not the biggest fan of seeing the celebrity stuff. Really, I mean, I think I'm not. I sound like a hypocrite because I'm gonna watch it, but I'm not the biggest fan of it. I'm like, I felt bad for little Nate, versus a kid that actually trained somewhat. A fairly trained fighter. Against a guy who is boxing. I mean,
Hey,
playing basketball.
D Style said he sees a ghost here.
Damn, D Style, what's up, my dude?
Big trees back from the dead. I told you,
Right?
man. I'm bringing the OGs back. I'm bringing the OGs back. The world needs it.
Yeah, they need this back in their lives, man. Those fun days, fun days.
But yeah, I don't want to see these crossovers. That would be the worst here. So if that's his big announcement that he wants to do a crossover fight with somebody from the UFC or an entertainer or something, I'm out. I'm out.
Hey, do you think though it hurts his? I'm sorry, the Connor's last UFC fight that he just lost doesn't. You got to think that hurts the sale for him and Manny, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's my whole point. Like, why would you want to see a guy coming off of a loss in his own sport? What's the take from that?
Yeah,
Right?
and I mean, don't. I'm probably going to get this wrong, but what is he's lost the last 3 of his last 5 in his own sport, maybe, give or take.
Yeah, I know. I know.
You
He
know,
started saying you were his first collab, by the way.
Man, I'm honored. I'm honored. That was good. D style, man. We were doing it up then.
But yeah, that's exactly the point. Like you're talking about a guy who has lost multiple times. He's on a downslope in his own sport. So what's
Yeah.
what's the grab here?
He needs. I mean, he needs to stick to selling his whiskey. He'd be solid.
I don't know. But the thing is too, he's a really good at his own sport if he takes it seriously, and he could be great in his own sport. So do that, and he's still a sell there. He's losing fights, and he's still a sell there.
Yeah, I mean, he has a whole country behind him. First of all, and they love him out there. So, and then when he comes out and bringing it out here, you got so many people who love to watch him. You love his attitude, his cockiness, that Irish cockiness is a little different. He's drunk half the time.
Yeah. So who do you think we're gonna see against Manny?
Man, I've been thinking about this all day since we were talking about coming on doing the show. I'm gonna probably lean towards what you said earlier, like a Danny Garcia. Danny doesn't have a fight, I can see Mike. I see Danny first though for some reason. I think they've been trying to do that for so long, or that's been in the talks for so long that it's probably fitting. I don't just to go back real quick. I do not want to see him against Crawford. I don't because I think Crawford's going to hurt. I don't want to see Manny get hurt, man. I don't want to see any fighter get hurt. First of all, but
what if? Just think about this. Let's play what if for a second. What if he were to fight Crawford and win? And what does that do to his legacy? I mean, that puts him up there with like Bernard Hopkins. I was talking about with somebody about this earlier on Twitter. Like when Bernard Hopkins lost to Jermaine Taylor, I mean, allegedly lost. A lot of people felt like he didn't lose either fight, but let's say he lost those fights to Jermaine Taylor. A lot of people were starting to write off Hopkins, and he started to look like he was slowing down. A Calzaghe fight as well. But look what he did for like almost 10 years after that. And it just kept adding and adding and adding to his storied career. He almost had 2 separate careers. What if Pacquiao, who has already had like 3-4 careers in one, what if he beats Crawford?
Yeah, since we're playing what I was gonna say that you can't. He's not a B-hop though, where the man is smart, but he's not a boxer. He's not a technician. Right. But if we're playing the what if, then man, that catapults him up there. You have to if he beats Crawford in Crawford's prime, decisively too. You
He
got
already has arguably the best overall resume in modern boxing. I mean, if you look at what he did in the lower weight classes and then came up his run at welterweight, even though he lost to Mayweather, even though he lost the fourth fight to Marquez. Look
yeah,
at who he beat. Look at who he fought. Look at all the
yeah,
trilogies and the wars he had. But you're right. He doesn't have the style of a guy who would be successful late in his career.
right.
But he has been. But he still has been.
Yeah, I mean, he took a tough L to what was the European kid's name?
The
That controversial,
Australian.
yeah, Australian kid.
He
That
didn't
was
lose that
tough.
fight.
Yeah,
He
he
didn't
didn't.
lose that
Yeah,
fight.
but other
Horn.
than
That was
that, yeah,
Horn.
Horn. But other than that, I mean, he's being Thurman. I've always liked Thurman. I've always thought Thurman was fun to watch. I mean, we met up with him or met him out there in Vegas that one time. Nice dude, really cool dude. But I mean, I didn't think that Pacquiao. I thought, see, it was a split decision. I thought Pacquiao won easily. I remember watching it live. I was there, and I thought Pacquiao won easily. But that was a tough fight. Who would have thought that?
Yeah.
So
That's what I'm
he did.
saying.
It's very impressive. But Crawford's a different breed, man.
Yeah, yes.
That's he's a bad dude. Him and Spence, they're two bad dudes. Like,
talent wise, you could argue Crawford's the best in the world.
yeah,
Talent, eye test. Not the resume because he's not getting the fights he deserves. But let's check out these comments. D-Star says Tiafimo Sr. is going to join them on Tuesday and Gabe Flores too. That's a good look. That's a
oh
good look.
nice.
Y'all go check that out. There's some good interviews there. He thinks it's going to be Crawford. That's what I'd like to see too. Outlaw says Mikey Garcia. Mikey Garcia is a guy who is interesting because a guy with name recognition, but a guy that I feel like I feel like Pacquiao should beat right now.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Um, I think Mikey will try to make it a boring fight. Try to stay on the outside. I think Manny will solve that very fast. You know, um, Manny still might be. What would you consider Manny the smaller guy on Mikey, but or not? Because I mean, he doesn't fight at that weight class.
Yeah,
But he's
Mikey's a guy who was a great lightweight,
right.
but welterweight, sort of an
He's
above average guy.
yeah. He's right there in the middle, that middle tier. I think it'd be a good fight, but I'd rather see him fight Danny. I think Danny and Manny would be a fun fight. Yeah,
Danny
like what
versus
D-Cell
Mikey.
said.
That'd be a good fight. Let's see what else we got here.
Americanized style. This guy.
He's 41, beating undefeated warriors in his prime. He's special. That's right. That's right.
No,
You're not gonna get any hate from Pacquiao from us. You can.
no. I just don't see him beating Crawford. The Crawford or Spencer, they're just too. They're animals. They're vicious too, man. They're not playing around.
Berchelt's winning. Don't do this to yourself. We're gonna get Big Tree's pick later, but D Style is bullish on Berchelt. And G Funky not so much. And guess what, Tree? They're carrying on the pie bet tradition.
Oh, really?
D Style versus G Funky. They have a pie bet going on for this fight. So D Style has Berchelt, and G Funky has Valdez. So that's enough right there for you to cheer for Valdez.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I think it was to you. I lost the pie bet too. I think.
Yeah, you got in on that. I lost the pie bet to. I forgot who I lost the pie bet to be honest. And D Style lost the pie bet to me. He said, I'm sure he won a couple too. But we had that pie bet going strong back in the day.
Yeah, man. From that to fantasy boxing, man, that was fun.
3-time champion right here.
Yeah, I didn't get my shot. I had you though. Yeah, that was good times though. I love that. I'll take fantasy boxing over fantasy football, and I love fantasy football.
Oh yeah, any day.
That made me watch fights I never would normally watch.
I know we were watching fights. That's what got us into Japanese fights, and
yeah,
we were watching the European fighters, and a lot of those Euro fighters sucked. We were watching it though.
I was pushing through those matches. I was like,
hey,
I gotta watch this.
That's how I became a Ricky Burns fan. Remember?
Yeah,
Ricky Burns got me a hat trick.
Yeah.
I want to talk to you about Broner. AB
Yeah.
about
Hey,
billions.
yeah,
As
about
as we
burgers.
talked about, man, I can't. I've seen guys miss weight. I've seen contracted weights get lifted at the last minute. Floyd Mayweather versus Juan Manuel Marquez seems to
Marquez.
come to mind, where they lifted the weight about 2 pounds. But I don't think I've ever seen. I don't think I've ever seen a whole weight class change 2 days before a fight. Like this was a junior welterweight fight. This was contracted at 140, and then 48 hours before the fight, they say, "Nah, it's a welterweight fight now." They changed the whole weight class. And then they came out and they said it was both parties. Both parties wanted it to change.
Right. I mean, I saw the who's he fighting? What's the guy's name?
Santiago. Well,
Santiago.
I don't know. I don't know much about Santiago. I'm just being
Me
honest.
neither. But I mean, I know enough about Broner that I knew that he wasn't going to make weight. you know, but that's what's interesting. Like you said, Santiago. It was what 2 days prior to weigh-in or one day.
It was 1 day prior to weigh-in.
Okay, and he weighed in at 145 today. Like, I mean, was he struggling too? Then is that telling me he was struggling
Or
you
maybe
know
he just stopped. Or maybe he just stopped and
stopped?
realized he can just start eating. I don't know. But Broner, I heard Broner got in at 146, right?
Yeah, 146 and a half or some
I
odd
think
shit.
here's how I think it played out. Santiago was going to make 140. Broner wasn't,
Right.
and Broner wasn't going to try. So they came to Santiago's team and said, "Look, this guy's not making 140. This isn't going to be a 140 fight." Santiago's manager said, "Show us the money. Show
Yeah.
us the money." And Broner's team threw him some money under the table. They signed a contract on the side saying it's going to be a welterweight fight now. Here's some money. He probably got paid handsomely to go through with the fight because his manager probably said, "Look, if you don't pay us, we're walking." So they're still going to do the fight, and they probably signed something in the contract saying, "We're not going to talk about it. We're going to say that this was a mutual decision," and they're going through with the fight. I think that's what happened because we've seen that with Broner before. I think that was Eloy Perez.
Eloy, yeah.
Remember what he did to that guy? I mean, they changed the
That was
weight.
bad.
That
Yeah.
was really bad. He outweighed that kid by like 20 pounds the night of the fight.
Yeah, that was, and then he mocked him after the fight too,
He
like he
did.
normally does. Yeah,
He
that
did.
was just how are you going to mock someone after you couldn't make weight? I just hope that whatever they paid Santiago wasn't the last $12 that Broner's been talking about in his bank account or whatever he says. That guy's such a clown, dude. I don't know how this guy's still. I mean, I guess it's true. If you can entertain, you can stay relevant for some time. I guess he just doesn't entertain in the ring anymore.
AB
About
about Big Mac.
you right. That guy. That guy has. When's the last time he's made weight? Really? Like,
I don't know, but that's the thing. Like, why were they trying to make this at 140? He was never going to be a junior welterweight again.
Hey, so this is what's going to happen though. Broner's going to probably win the fight. Let's say he wins the fight. They do that post-fight interview, and the question is going to be, so what's your plans? You're going to say at what weight class? 147 is that weight class for you? He's like, I can make 140. That's what he's going to say. He's going to say that. He's like, anybody can get it. 130,
American,
135,
Mexican,
yeah,
Puerto Rican.
Man, he's going to say he can fight at 125. Watch, like
he's going to brush the hair. Is his dad still alive? I'm not asking that to joke around, but
I have no idea.
His dad will be brushing his hair if he's still alive. I mean,
but that's the problem. He thinks he can. He keeps saying he can make these weights all the time, and they give him the fights at those weights. Like, I don't even bother looking at what the weight class is when he fights, though, because it's going to change at this point now.
Like
it's his own weight class. Yeah,
it's the Chavez Jr. tradition. Chavez Jr. I think he was the most brutal at it because he could just do whatever he wanted, and he knew he could do whatever he wanted, and he was going to do whatever he wanted.
Yeah, he just except for win towards when he fought the good guys, when he fought fighters that could fight.
But Broner, I think, is like he's a healthy favorite in this fight. I think Santiago was like plus 490 or plus 590, something like that. So I might throw like $20 down on Santiago just to see if it sticks. Why not? I have it to lose, so just throw it down because you always have to take into account that Broner can come out tomorrow night and just wet the bed and just not look good at all. And this young,
Definitely.
hungry fighter at 14-0-1, because he does have a good record, not much of a resume, but good record. So we don't know what we're getting with this guy. He could come out and surprise.
Yeah. You don't, because you don't, that's the scary thing. You don't know what you're getting with Broner. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, you almost do, though. You almost know you're going to get a reckless guy, a guy
Yeah.
that did this for the hood. Yeah. You know, a guy who's probably going to tire out, make a lot of mistakes. So
He's inconsistent in there, man. His performances in the ring is microcosm of his career and him outside of the ring as well. He's just inconsistent. Inconsistency. He'll look great for 30 seconds and then horrible for 2.5 minutes in a round. And that's what makes him interesting to watch. And I wanted to ask you that because me as a fan, I like having him around. Not only
right.
for what he gives you before fights, the entertainment value, the WWE value, the ring entrances, the post-fight interviews, but he has a type of style that he's talented enough to keep himself in there with superior opposition, much like a Sean Porter when he was being outclassed, but he almost knocked him out in the 12th round. But he's also inconsistent enough to keep inferior opponents in the fights with him. And that's what worries me tomorrow night for him is Santiago, an inferior opposition, could stay in this fight with him because of his inconsistency in fights. He'll just go into lulls to where he doesn't do anything for 2 minutes at a time. Doesn't have much output. Can't mix offense with defense. Not much of a counterpuncher. Flat-footed. So he's a guy who inferior opposition can be in there with. But he has a lot of heart. We have to give him that. You saw that in the Maidana fight. You saw that in the Porter fight. But his ceiling is much lower than what we thought. So same question I gave you with Pacquiao. Like, fast forward to 2021 from 2013. What did you see? Did you see this guy ever being a pound-for-pound talent back in the day when he was at 135?
Man, you know, it's funny you said that. Not that long ago, I was like, you know, on Facebook or whatever, you could see like your past post or whatever on this day. And I saw a post that I was hyping this dude up. But I think this is like when he was first coming on the scene on TV, like on HBO and stuff, you know, like when he was
the
just
Litzau
like,
days.
Yeah. I think it was around then.
I think he destroyed Litzau, if I remember correctly.
He did. I think that was that his first belt or
first or second? He fought Ponce de Leon before that. I think that was his first belt. Yeah, that was like 126, 130, something like that.
And I was thinking about, man, I was like, damn, I was a clown for saying that crap, you know. I mean, hindsight, you know, but I was gonna to answer your question almost with another question. Did you ever see a guy's ceiling drop so fast? You know, like he went from possibly being a real talented, you know, with a lot of potential to a guy who just could not stay out of trouble, to couldn't make weight, to getting whipped on by Maidana and getting humped by Maidana, you know, like he was dominated. I love that. That's the greatest moment. When Maidana got him back, that might have been one of my favorite moments, man.
That was better than the knockdown, right?
Yeah. But yeah, I always thought he'd be at least good, you know, he'd be up there, you know, but I never thought he'd drop this bad until I saw him getting in trouble, you know, when he couldn't keep his nose out of the powder and the fun, you know, kind of had to expect it after that.
So do you think that there's a possibility that this guy can be a legit champ with a big win in his career, or do you think it's done? It's done.
I think he's done. I don't. To be legit, that means I would. To be legit, you got to be consistent, you know. And I don't see him being consistent ever. You know, maybe he'll win one big fight and lose.
If he gets a big win, it has to be against a guy moving up from a lower weight class with a name, who just bit off more than he can chew, came up too high,
too early. Yeah,
maybe like a Regis Prograis coming up from 140, but I still think Prograis would eat his lunch. Maybe a guy from 135 coming up. You know, maybe if Teofimo tried to move up 2 weight class, but I think Teofimo would beat him too.
Yeah, I do too. You know, I mean, I don't see any big, hungry lion losing to Broner.
That's an interesting comment right there because Broner did say that. He did say that Maidana did say that Broner was the biggest puncher he ever faced. So maybe that's what would do it. Maybe that's how he would get his big win. It's just landing a big punch like he tried to do against Sean Porter late in that fight, and he almost got it.
Yeah, but that's also going to be his downfall. He's going to, if that's all he's looking for. He's
That
looking
must,
for one big punch.
and that's the inconsistency, right?
Yeah.
That's the inconsistency with his
That's
output.
the lottery he's playing right there. He's hoping to strike gold with one shot all the time,
But it's interesting, like you look at Broner's career and Terrence Crawford's career. Remember, nobody was really paying attention to Terrence Crawford early in his career. And look at it now. And they came up at the same time. I compared it to Zab Judah and Floyd Mayweather, who came up at the same time. And Zab, I don't want to compare Broner to Zab because there's no comparison. Zab super talented, unified a division, had some great wins. But when you compared Zab to Floyd coming out of amateurs, and it was a good comparison to make, those two guys took separate turns because of up here, mentally. Because talent-wise, they were right there with each other. But you saw it in their fight. The first 4 or 5 rounds, Zab was right there with them. And then mentally, Floyd took over that fight. Completely took over that fight. And it's the same thing to me with Crawford and Broner is nobody was really paying attention to Crawford early in his career. And then he just stayed consistent. And then the talent started to show. And then with Broner, it went the other way. Everybody was paying attention to him, and he just went downhill.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a pretty fair comparison. I never even thought about it like that, or even thought about comparing Zab to Floyd. But when you bring that up, that's perfect, and that's same with what you said with Broner and Crawford. I remember us always talking about Broner not, giving Crawford that respect, I guess you could say, or that time, until later on,
Yeah, but I don't think Broner's ever going to get that big win.
I mean, and that's also because Crawford didn't have the showmanship that Broner had. Broner made you talk about him. Broner did stuff that was going to keep his name in people's mouths, whereas Crawford is a man about business. He goes in, takes care of business, and leaves.
Yeah, and Crawford, he needs access to those fights too, and he doesn't have it at Top Rank. He doesn't have access to those fights.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Unfortunately. Another thing I wanted to talk about is Max Kellerman mentioned something to Andre Ward last week. He said, "Do you ever see yourself coming out of retirement?" And he was thinking about Canelo when he said this, because Canelo's raising hell at 168. Canelo looks great as a super middleweight, and I think he will unify that division and become undisputed at some point, whether it be this year or next year. But Andre Ward said, if I come out of retirement, basically he said that he would beat anybody. Do you think you see Andre Ward coming out of retirement at 37 years old? Because he's younger than, say, a Triple G. He's younger than Pacquiao.
And not as much miles.
He doesn't have a lot of miles on the odometer.
He didn't get hit a lot. He was a great defensive fighter. He stayed fairly untouched and cleaned. I would like it.
If he came out of retirement, it would be for Canelo, and that would be the fight. And that's a carrot to dangle there. That's a tempting thing. That's a lot of money.
I'd chase after it. I'd watch that fight for sure. I'd be the first one. I'd be really excited.
How do you see that fight playing out if it happened at 168?
I'll put it like this: if it comes out and Ward's the dog in that fight, and a decent, considerable dog to bet on, I'm definitely throwing money on Ward. I wouldn't give him no shot.
Vegas odds, I think it would be pretty much a toss-up, right? Maybe even Ward a little bit of a favorite, maybe.
You think so? If a guy coming out of retirement, how many years has it been?
Well, he's been inducted into the Hall of Fame, so it's been 5 years, right?
Right. So I think Canelo has to be more than like 5+ years.
So
it has to be.
And I think he's been inducted. So
wow. Wasn't it
Wow.
this year or last year?
Yeah. It doesn't seem like that long ago since he fought Kovalev.
Right.
And snatched Kovalev's soul.
Yeah, poor guy.
He showed the blueprint there,
Yeah,
body work. But here's the thing, Canelo. Canelo's given the benefit of the doubt in fights. Okay, with you always have the Canelo judge, right? You always have the Canelo judge that gave him a draw against Mayweather, even though I didn't see a single round that you could have
yeah,
gave Canelo in that fight. And I'm a Canelo fan. But so you always had that judge. And then it seems like he's always got the referee. He'll have the referee on his side too. So I don't see these little games that Ward plays in there being cagey, being clever. It's not going to play out the same way against Canelo, right? Canelo is going to be the A side. Canelo is going to be the draw. He's the star.
right.
He's the house fighter. So I think Canelo is going to get benefit of the doubt there. Plus, Canelo, man, he looks better than ever at 168 to me. He seems comfortable in his own skin, strong.
He
The
looks like a
punching power
machine.
seems to have translated to 168, and plus he likes fighting taller fighters because he likes digging
He
into the body.
he looks like a well-rounded boxer now. And at this point of his career, I think he learned a lot from the Floyd fight.
Mm-hmm.
I think Floyd took him to school and he actually took notes, and now he's a great defensive fighter now, man. He's up there, man, and he's fast. He's smart now. He has intelligence. He has the. I mean, he had more fights than Floyd pretty much at the time, but I mean, half those fights were in Mexico. But now he's a real true veteran, of the
Yeah.
game. He's smart. So I mean, he's just to me, he's a machine at that weight. I
I
don't
think
see
so
anyone
too.
beating him. Yeah,
And
I
that
just
question right there, I don't see Billy Joe Saunders beating him either. And I actually think that Canelo matches up well against Saunders because you look at guys with lateral movement who maybe gave Canelo problems early in his career. Those were smaller guys with better lateral movement naturally because they were smaller. Guys like Lara, Austin Trout, Mayweather used lateral movement, but they were smaller guys, tougher to get to. These are taller, 168-pound
right.
guys who don't move as well naturally at that weight, and they have longer bodies to get to. And I just think Canelo has always looked better against taller fighters to me.
No, I don't see Joel Saunders having a chance. I don't see anyone pretty much right now. I think he's just at that point in his career that you can't. I mean, you can obviously anyone can lose, but he just seems very unstoppable. I just like Ward so much. I always thought Ward was so smart and talented that I always give him a chance against any fighter. I mean, how many times did we think Ward was going to lose in the was it
Super six.
Super
Yeah, the Super
six?
Six.
He was
He
the
beat
underdog the whole time.
he beat Mikhail Kessler. Then
Yeah,
he beat he walked and then he beat Carl Froch in the championship.
yeah. So you can't. To me, he's a guy I can never count out.
Although I thought he lost the first Kovalev fight. I still think that. I thought he lost that fight by 2 or 3 points, but he came back and avenged it.
Yeah. Yeah, he showed that first one don't matter.
No, he walked. He did the same thing Tyson Fury did with Deontay Wilder. He just said the second fight, I'm going to bully the bully. I'm going to walk him down and beat him at his own game, and that's what he did. I mean, he just bullied him. He snatched his soul. So you obviously you can't count Andre Ward out, but I give it. I'd say it's 50-50 whether he returns. If Canelo was not there, I would not say that. I would say Andre Ward's comfortable in retirement. He's going to stay there, especially being inducted. But when you have that big of a fight out there, and this guy who is arguably the pound for pound king, who is the biggest guy in the sport by far, is right there in your division, you're arguably the best guy who ever fought at that division. Arguably, why not? Somebody's going to throw you 40, 50 million, something like that.
I'd hop on that real quick. I'm like, I'll take the fight. That would be great, man. That'd be awesome to see, though. The almost you can just tag it as like the past greatest at the weight class versus the present. Who would have thought? You never. How many chances do we get to see something like that?
I know. But I think Canelo has a good shot of unifying that division and becoming undisputed. What do you think about? What's your thoughts on Caleb Plant at 168?
I
think he's good.
I don't. I think he's a solid fighter. I don't think he's going to be anything that I don't think he has a chance against Canelo. You know, if that's the route we're taking right now, like, you know, on the Canelo tip, Canelo wipes that division out, in my opinion.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I watched that last fight of his. To me,
It
it
was
was
meh. It
eh,
was meh.
at best. You know,
It was
I'm
one of
not gonna
those.
lie. Hey, I'm not gonna lie. I actually think I fell asleep midway through the fight. I I was chilling watching the fight, and I wake up. I think I woke up in the 11th round or 12th round. You know, and I was
Hey,
like,
I
oh
said
damn, I
on my
missed the whole fight.
podcast, I said on the post fight that I was playing a Nintendo Switch in the 6th round with my son. I mean, that's what I was doing because it was
Yeah,
such a. You could tell where it was going in the 6th round.
yeah,
It was just going to a 12th round boring decision, and it was so disappointing, man, because he could have made a statement there.
right.
And then
And that's the thing. You finally have that chance. Like, I mean, he's already someone that people don't necessarily put him up there or give him credit or whatever. So you're on TV, national TV, time to make that statement, and you know, you put a snooze fest up. Like, not
and
gonna
then you
watch you again.
and then you don't even call out Canelo after. It's like what is
Yeah.
that?
Did he say he wanted to take some time? You know, whatever he said. I don't know. See
Take
my
some time,
family.
huh? Take some
COVID was
time.
rough. You know. you know.
All right.
Uh,
Last topic, real quick. And this is real quick. Just give me a quick prediction on Berchelt versus Valdez. Who do you think is going to win that fight? Because
I
I
think
think that I think Valdez, man. I'm going for the upset here. He's a 3-1 underdog. I'm going for the upset here because he was avoided at 126. He's a guy with Reynoso now. He's in Canelo's team now. He's learned some boxing abilities these past couple fights. I think it's going to translate into this fight. I think he's going to be able to get on the inside, do some body work against Berchelt, the bigger guy. And once we'll be able to tell once Berchelt starts catching him with shots. If he can take those shots, this turns into a toss-up fight, and it turns into a war because this is fight of the year candidate right here on paper.
I think D Style will be eating some pie, man. I think Valdez is going to pull it off. I think it's going to be, like you said, it'll be a fun fight, and I'm excited for that. We're early in the year. I feel like a lot of your fight of the years, you know, usually come early on when you weren't
Yeah,
expecting it, or you know, because I feel like a lot gets slept on too. Like there was a fight of the year early on, and there might have been a few later down the line, like in the late year of the year, and
yeah,
we forgot about that first one only because it was so long ago. So I
yeah.
feel like this could be one of those, you know.
You're like, what? Wasn't that fight last year?
Yeah, wasn't it? Yeah, that's how it always plays out, you know.
Uh, so
So
you like
I got
Valdez in
Valdez.
this fight?
Yeah,
We're sweeping it, Valdez. So hopefully
yeah,
D Style eats some pie. It's good to see the pie bet back.
yeah. That was a good bet. And that,
All right.
you know, now knowing that he's the underdog, I actually might run to the casino real quick. So,
Right there in Vegas.
right.
Hit us with your final thoughts, man. Calcast 9, it was good to have you on. I need to have you on back on again soon. But thanks for coming on. It's always good to have the OGs here. We've gone back 10 years, man. So it's good to
Yeah.
always good to chop it up. Any final thoughts on Pacquiao, Broner, or anything boxing?
Man, first of all, thank you for having me on. It was awesome to be back. It's been a minute. Especially been on doing a podcast where we're talking about boxing again. It's been a minute for that. So it's awesome to do that. Um, so thanks. And not real, man. I'm excited for some good fights this year. For everything opening up, I think that's going to open up opportunity for some big fights. So hopefully we see some big fights this year. The fights that we deserve to see as fans. That'd be awesome.
Yep. It's good to have boxing back. And with all these guys who were off in 2020, it's created a vacuum in 2021 that these fighters need to take advantage of. And that's why this could be a huge year for boxing. If they do it right, this could be a huge year because all these guys have a long layoff. So they should be chomping at the bit to get back. And a fight like tomorrow night can really set things off because I think this is going to be a big one, man. And Adrian Broner being back on top of that, even though it's not going to be, it might be a good fight. Who knows? A fight might break out there too. But it's
Yeah.
good to have a big name back as well in Broner.
Yeah,
So I'm looking
definitely.
forward to it. So thanks for coming on. Thanks for tuning in to Calcast 9, man. Y'all hit the sub button, hit the alerts. Hit the alerts so you see the shows. Follow me on Twitter, all that good stuff. And make sure you comment below in the archives too. Been getting a lot of archive views. So we're out, man. Peace.
Peace out. Peace out.